Imagine opening your eyes, but everything familiar has disappeared. No buildings, no roads, no electricity, no comfortable bed waiting for you at the end of the day. Instead, you find yourself standing in a world that existed thousands of years before modern civilization, a world covered in endless forests, vast open landscapes, and places where danger could be hiding just beyond the trees. You are one of the earliest humans, and your survival depends on a few simple things: finding food, staying warm, avoiding predators, and making it through another night. Today, we often think of early humans as simple people who lived an easy life surrounded by nature. But the reality was very different. Every sunrise brought a new challenge. A missed hunt could mean hunger, a cold night could become dangerous, a small injury could become a serious threat. There were no hospitals to visit, no stores to buy food from, and no easy way to escape the harsh environment around you. Everything had to be earned, every meal, every shelter, every moment of safety. But despite these challenges, early humans survived. They learned how to use tools, they discovered the power of fire, they worked together, and slowly, they transformed from vulnerable creatures in a dangerous world into the ancestors of every person alive today. Tonight, we step quietly into their world, we follow their daily struggles, their strange routines, their incredible discoveries, and the hidden realities of a life that most modern people would find almost impossible. So turn down the lights, get comfortable, and allow yourself to drift back thousands of years, to a time when survival was not about convenience, but about patience, adaptation, and the simple hope of seeing another sunrise. Because tonight, we are discovering why you probably wouldn't survive a week as an early human. Morning arrives slowly, a pale mist hangs over the landscape, and the first rays of sunlight creep across the horizon. There is no alarm clock, no warm blanket, no walls protecting you from the outside world, only the sound of birds, the rustling of leaves, and the distant cries of creatures whose names have long been forgotten. You awaken on a bed of dried grass and animal skins. The earth beneath you feels hard, and the night air still lingers in your bones. Around you, other members of your small group begin to stir. Nobody speaks very much. There is no need. Everyone understands that another day has begun, and with it, another test. The fire that protected the group through the darkness has almost faded. Thin ribbons of smoke drift upward into the cool morning air. Someone carefully places fresh branches onto the glowing embers. Soon, small flames return. Their warmth feels precious. Perhaps more precious than most modern people could ever imagine. There are no kitchens waiting nearby, no breakfast prepared in advance, no guarantee that food will come today. Hunger, even mild hunger, is a familiar companion, and yet life continues. Children yawn quietly beside their mothers. Older members of the group slowly rise from sleep. Their faces carry memories of thousands of difficult mornings just like this one. The world around them is beautiful. But beauty does not always mean safety. Tall grass waves gently in the wind. Ancient forests stretch beyond the horizon. Rivers sparkle beneath the early sunlight. But hidden within that peaceful landscape, countless dangers wait. Sharp winters, violent storms, predators, disease, accidents, things modern people rarely think about. And still, these early humans endure, not because life is easy, but because every generation learns a little more than the one before. Knowledge passes quietly from parent to child, from elder to youth, from one sunrise to the next, as the mist begins to disappear, and the warmth of day slowly spreads across the earth. The group prepares to leave their resting place. Because surviving as an early human does not allow much time for comfort, the day ahead will demand energy, patience, and perhaps a little luck, and before long, you begin to understand something surprising. Waking up, was actually the easiest part, because once the sun rises, the endless search for survival truly begins. The first light of morning has already begun to spread across the land, and behind you, the faint smoke from the night's campfire slowly disappears into the pale sky. The place where you slept is already becoming part of yesterday. Nothing stays permanent for long, not the shelter, not the warmth, and certainly not the comfort. As your small group moves through the cool grasslands, a strange realization quietly settles in: there is no home waiting for you. No soft mattress, no dry roof to keep away the rain, no cupboards filled with food, no lanterns to brighten the darkness after sunset. Everything that feels ordinary in the modern world, everything so easy that it often goes unnoticed, simply does not exist here. And perhaps the hardest thing to understand is that nobody expects it to. For the people around you, discomfort is not unusual. It is life itself. Your feet feel every stone beneath the ground. The morning air chills your skin. A strong wind carries the scent of distant trees and damp earth. Even the clothes you wear offer only limited protection. Simple coverings made from animal hides hang loosely around the body. Useful, yes, but far from comfortable. The rough surfaces rub against the skin, rain can soak through them, and during cold seasons, warmth is always temporary. Still, nobody complains, because survival leaves little room for complaints. An elder walks ahead with quiet determination. Years of experience have shaped every movement. Children follow closely behind their mothers. Their young eyes absorb lessons that cannot be found in books. Which plants are safe, which sounds signal danger, which paths lead to water. Knowledge is carried in memory, passed down like invisible treasure. The sun climbs higher, and with it comes heat. Soon, the coolness of dawn gives way to warmth. There are no shoes designed for comfort, no bottles of cold water waiting nearby, no shade except what nature provides. A large tree becomes a place of temporary relief. The group rests, not because they wish to, but because energy must be protected. Every movement matters. Even simple tasks demand effort. A sharp stone must be used carefully. Water must be gathered by hand. Food must be carried. Children must be watched. And every decision carries consequences. Modern life has a remarkable way of hiding effort. Electricity does the work, machines save time, walls provide safety. But here, human bodies perform nearly every task. Muscles replace engines, patience replaces convenience, and time itself moves differently. There are no clocks, no calendars hanging on walls, no endless stream of messages demanding attention. The rhythm of life belongs entirely to the sun, the seasons, and the weather. Perhaps strangely, there is something peaceful about that. No noise from passing traffic, no glowing screens, no endless rush. Only the sounds of birds overhead, the whisper of wind through grass, and the distant murmur of flowing water. Yet beneath that quiet beauty, hardship never disappears. Insects bite exposed skin, blisters form slowly on tired feet. Small cuts sting, a sudden storm can ruin the day's plans, and illnesses, even simple ones, remain frightening mysteries. There are no medicines, no hospitals, only hope, and whatever knowledge the group has gathered over countless generations. As afternoon approaches, dark clouds gather above the horizon. The wind changes. Without warning, rain begins to fall. There are no umbrellas, no dry houses nearby. Everyone simply continues moving. Water drips from hair and animal skins. Children huddle close to their mothers. The earth becomes slippery beneath bare feet. Yet nobody panics. Because this, like hunger, like cold, like exhaustion, is familiar. It has always been part of life. And perhaps that is the greatest difference between your world and theirs. Modern people often expect comfort. Early humans expected challenge, not because they were stronger, not because they feared less, but because hardship surrounded them from the moment they were born. The rain eventually passes, golden sunlight returns, tiny drops sparkle on leaves and tall grass. For a moment, the world feels calm again, beautiful, almost peaceful, and as evening slowly approaches, you begin to understand something unexpected. Comfort itself is a luxury, one so common in the modern world that most people never notice it. But here, thousands of years in the past, comfort is rare, and survival depends on learning how to live without it, because tomorrow will bring another challenge. And soon, the search for food will become impossible to ignore. By the time the rain clouds disappear behind the distant hills, another problem has already begun to quietly occupy every mind in the group. Not shelter, not warmth, but something even more immediate: food. Unlike the modern world, where meals can be prepared in minutes or bought with little thought, the people around you wake each morning with a question that never truly leaves them. What will we eat today? And perhaps even more unsettling, will there be enough? As the sun rises higher into the sky, the landscape glows with soft shades of green and gold. Birds sing among the trees, gentle winds ripple through the tall grasses. Everything appears peaceful, yet beneath this beauty, a silent urgency follows every step, because hunger never rests. Yesterday's meal is already becoming a memory. The human body, after all, makes demands that cannot be ignored. Children grow hungry quickly, elders need strength, mothers carrying infants require even more nourishment, and every member of the group understands that finding food is not a task reserved for certain hours, it is life itself. The journey continues across open plains and scattered forests. Nobody wanders aimlessly. Years of observation have taught these early humans to read the land in ways that would seem almost magical to modern eyes: broken branches, fresh footprints, the calls of distant birds. Even the direction of the wind carries hidden information. An experienced elder pauses beside a patch of earth. To you, it appears ordinary, but to him, tiny marks in the soil reveal that animals passed through during the night. Perhaps deer, perhaps something smaller, perhaps nothing worth chasing. Still, every clue matters. Nearby, several women and older children carefully search among bushes and low plants. Their movements are patient, unhurried. They know that the land offers gifts, but also dangerous tricks. Some berries provide energy, others can bring sickness. Certain roots contain nourishment, others may cause terrible pain. Knowledge passed down over countless generations becomes as valuable as any tool. Mistakes are costly, and nature rarely offers second chances. Hours pass, the sun reaches its highest point, but success remains uncertain. A few edible plants are gathered. Several eggs are discovered inside a hidden nest, enough to help, but not enough to satisfy everyone. There are no refrigerators, no farms, no markets, nothing stored away for emergencies. What the group finds today may determine how tomorrow feels. Hunger itself becomes a familiar companion, not the severe starvation often imagined in stories, but a constant presence, a quiet ache in the stomach, an awareness that energy must be spent carefully. Even children learn this lesson early. They do not expect abundance. They celebrate small discoveries: a handful of nuts, a cluster of fruit, the unexpected appearance of honey hidden within a fallen tree. Such things bring smiles, not because they are rare luxuries, but because they mean another day can continue. As afternoon drifts toward evening, shadows grow longer. The group gathers beside a shallow stream. Water flows gently over smooth stones. For a brief moment, there is peace. Tiny fish dart beneath the surface. Dragonflies hover above the reeds. The world feels calm, but behind every quiet conversation, the same thought remains: will tomorrow provide enough? Because hunger is patient, it always returns. Modern people often imagine that food was simpler long ago, fresh, natural, abundant, but the truth is far more uncertain. Early humans lived without guarantees. Nature could be generous or cruel. Sometimes entire days passed with very little reward, and seasons of scarcity could transform ordinary life into a struggle. Yet somehow, these people endured, not through endless strength, not through luck alone, but through patience, observation, and the remarkable ability to adapt. As the fading sunlight paints the sky in shades of amber and soft purple, the group shares what little has been collected. No one eats in great abundance, but no one eats alone. There is comfort in that, even in difficult times, even when uncertainty lingers. The fire crackles quietly beside the stream. Children begin to grow sleepy. The stars slowly awaken overhead, and somewhere beyond the darkness, animals move silently beneath the moon, creatures that may soon become food, or perhaps something far more dangerous, because tomorrow, some members of the group will attempt a task that modern stories have often misunderstood, a task filled with failure, risk, and unexpected patience. For unlike the exciting tales shown in films, hunting was never quite what people imagined. Morning arrives quietly beside the stream, and the soft glow of the fire slowly fades beneath the growing light of dawn. The night has passed peacefully, for now, but as the group begins to stir, a different kind of anticipation hangs in the cool air, not excitement, not confidence, something far quieter, uncertainty, because today, some members of the group will hunt. Modern stories often paint ancient hunting as a grand adventure, fast, heroic, filled with dramatic chases and triumphant victories, but the reality was far slower and far less certain. For early humans, hunting was never entertainment, it was necessity, and necessity had little interest in glory. After sharing a small portion of yesterday's food, several experienced adults prepare to leave. There are no metal weapons, no horses, no maps, only sharpened wooden spears, simple stone tools, and knowledge gathered through countless generations. The children watch silently. They understand the importance of this journey, not because anyone explains it, but because hunger teaches lessons words often cannot. The hunters move carefully across the landscape, their paces unhurried. Energy must be preserved. Every unnecessary movement carries a cost. The earth beneath their feet tells stories invisible to unfamiliar eyes: bent grass, broken twigs, fresh hoofprints left in soft mud. Signs that animals have recently passed nearby. An elder kneels beside the tracks, his weathered hands brush gently over the ground. He studies the marks with patient eyes, not rushed, not anxious. Patience, perhaps more than strength, has become humanity's greatest tool. Hours pass, the sun climbs higher, nothing appears, no dramatic encounters, no sudden opportunities, only silence, birdsong, and the steady rhythm of walking. Modern people might find such waiting unbearable, but early humans understood something important: nature moves according to its own rules. Impatience changes nothing. Eventually, a distant movement catches their attention. A small group of deer grazes among scattered trees. The hunters stop immediately. No one speaks. Even breathing becomes slower. Every movement matters now. The animals are alert. Their ears twitch constantly. Their noses test the wind. A single mistake, a snapped branch, or the scent of humans carried by the breeze, could end everything. Slowly, carefully, the hunters position themselves, not with confidence, but with hope, because hope is often all they have. One spear is raised, the moment arrives, and then chaos. The deer scatter, powerful legs send them racing across the grasslands. Within seconds, they vanish into the distance. Silence returns. No celebration, no success, only disappointment, and yet nobody appears surprised. Failure is expected. Perhaps that is one of the least understood truths about ancient life. Hunting rarely succeeded. Many days ended exactly like this, empty-handed, tired, hungry. But survival demanded resilience, not perfection. The group continues onward. Hours later, fortune finally offers something smaller, a rabbit hidden among rocks. Not much, but enough to justify the effort. Enough to bring something home, because sometimes survival depends not on abundance, but on accepting small victories. As afternoon stretches toward evening, the hunters begin their journey back. Their bodies ache, their feet are sore, the weight of exhaustion settles upon tired muscles. But they continue, because others are waiting, children, elders, mothers carrying infants. No one survives alone, and perhaps that understanding matters more than any weapon. Back at camp, the returning figures appear against the golden light of sunset. Those who remained behind watch carefully, not with excitement, but with quiet hope. The sight of even modest success brings gentle relief. Tonight, there will be food, not a feast, but enough. Enough to ease hunger for another day. The fire crackles softly beneath the evening sky. Children drift toward sleep. Shadows dance among the trees, and somewhere beyond the warmth of the camp, countless plants continue growing unnoticed. Roots hidden beneath the earth, berries concealed among thorny bushes, leaves carrying both nourishment and danger, because while hunting demanded patience, the ancient world held another challenge altogether, one filled with secrets invisible to careless eyes, and for those who misunderstood nature's gifts, even a simple meal could become a deadly mistake. As the last warmth of the evening fades, and the stars quietly watch over the sleeping camp, another day slowly approaches. The hunters who returned with their modest prize rest beside the dying embers. Children dream peacefully beneath blankets of animal hides, and somewhere beyond the circle of firelight, the earth itself continues to grow, quietly, patiently, almost unnoticed. By morning, the gentle sounds of birds once again welcome the rising sun. Mist hangs low across the grasslands, tiny droplets cling to leaves, and while some members of the group remain near the camp, others prepare for a different journey, one that demands a kind of knowledge no spear could ever provide. Because despite what many people imagine, early humans did not survive through hunting alone. Much of their food came from the land itself, from roots hidden beneath the soil, from berries tucked beneath thorny branches, from nuts, seeds, herbs, and fruits that changed with the seasons. Nature offered many gifts, but she rarely explained which gifts were safe. The women, elders, and older children move carefully through the morning landscape. Their pace is slow. There is no hurry. Mistakes here carry consequences far more dangerous than simple hunger. To unfamiliar eyes, many plants appear nearly identical. One cluster of berries may provide nourishment, another may bring sickness. Some roots contain precious energy, others hide invisible poisons. Knowledge, once again, becomes the difference between survival and tragedy. An elderly woman kneels beside a patch of low-growing plants, her hands move with quiet confidence. Years of experience guide her. Children gather around and watch. No books exist, no written instructions. Everything must be remembered, everything must be passed forward. The lessons are simple, yet precious. Which leaves smell sweet, which stems break easily, which flowers bloom before edible roots appear, and perhaps most importantly, which plants should never be touched, because nature has many ways of protecting herself. Some dangers announce themselves with bright colors, others hide behind beauty. A handful of attractive berries glisten beneath the sunlight, beautiful, tempting, but deadly. Even adults remain cautious. No one trusts appearances over countless generations. Painful mistakes have taught lessons written not on paper, but in memory, and memory keeps people alive. As the day grows warmer, Baskets woven from plant fibers slowly begin to fill, wild nuts, tender shoots, edible roots, tiny fruits, nothing extravagant, nothing abundant, but enough to matter, enough to bring relief. Nearby, children search for bird eggs hidden among tall grasses. Their excitement remains quiet. Finding even a few eggs feels like discovering treasure. Because in this world, small victories hold enormous meaning, yet danger hides everywhere. A thorn tears the skin, sharp rocks scrape bare feet, insects sting exposed arms. Even gathering food requires patience and care. And then there are snakes. Silent, perfectly disguised, resting beneath worn stones or hidden among fallen leaves, most encounters end peacefully, but not all. Fear exists, yet panic does not, because fear itself has become familiar. It walks beside them every day, not as an enemy, but as a reminder. Pay attention, move carefully, respect the world around you. By afternoon, dark clouds drift slowly across the sky. The cool breeze signals changing weather. The group begins returning toward camp. Their baskets are modest, their bodies tired, but there is satisfaction in knowing that today's efforts have not been wasted. Back beside the fire, the gathered food is shared among everyone. No one claims ownership. No one eats alone. Survival belongs to the group, not the individual, and perhaps that simple idea has helped humanity endure longer than any weapon ever could. As evening settles across the ancient landscape, the smell of roasting roots and nuts mingles with the scent of wood smoke. Children laugh softly, elders exchange quiet glances. For a little while, there is peace, but tomorrow will bring something different. Because hidden within human hands, simple objects are beginning to change everything. Sharp stones, carefully shaped, patiently crafted, small inventions so ordinary, yet so extraordinary, that they will slowly alter the future of our species forever. And without even realizing it, humanity is about to take another small step toward becoming something entirely new. As the evening fire crackles softly beneath the growing darkness, and the smell of roasted roots slowly fades into the cool night air, something rather remarkable begins to happen. Not a hunt, not a gathering expedition, but something quieter, something easy to overlook. Around the edges of the firelight, human hands begin to work. Children grow sleepy beside their mothers. The stars emerge one by one above the endless sky. And while much of the group prepares for rest, a few figures remain awake. Their attention rests not on the heavens, but on stones, ordinary stones, or at least, stones that appear ordinary to modern eyes. Yet within those rough pieces of rock lies one of the greatest turning points in human history. Because long before cities, long before writing, and long before great civilizations rose from the earth, early humans discovered something extraordinary. Nature could be changed. A simple stone could become something more. An elder sits quietly near the glowing embers. In his weathered hands rests a dark piece of flint. Another stone strikes against it with careful precision. Click, a sharp sound echoes softly through the night. Tiny fragments scatter. Again. Click, and again, slowly, patiently, a shape begins to emerge. Not beautiful, not perfect, but useful. And usefulness means survival. Nearby, younger members of the group watch with quiet fascination. There are no schools. No written instructions, only observation, only memory. The knowledge passes from one generation to the next like a precious secret. A certain angle, a certain force, too much pressure and the stone shatters. Too little, and nothing changes. Success requires patience. And patience is something these people understand deeply. Hours may pass creating a single tool, but the reward is enormous. Sharp edges can cut animal hides, prepare food, shape wooden spears, scrape plants, remove bark, and perhaps most importantly, save energy. Because before tools, Every task demanded even greater effort. The human body alone had limits, but with tools, those limits began to stretch. Quietly, almost invisibly, one small improvement at a time, no one sitting beside this fire knows they are participating in something that will change the world. They do not dream of cities, they cannot imagine machines, the future remains beyond comprehension, they simply wish to survive another season, and yet, that humble desire pushes humanity forward. As morning returns, the camp comes alive once more. Sunlight spills across the landscape, birdsong fills the cool air, and several members of the group prepare for the day's work. Simple stone blades hang from leather bindings, wooden digging sticks rest against nearby logs. Nothing appears extraordinary, but appearances can be deceiving. Even the youngest children understand the importance of these objects. Tools are cared for carefully, broken edges are repaired, lost stones are searched for, because creating them requires time, and time itself is precious. An experienced woman uses a sharpened stone to separate tough roots from the earth. Nearby, another member shapes branches into stronger spear shafts. An elder scrapes animal hide with slow, deliberate movements. Every action becomes easier because of knowledge gained over thousands of years, knowledge written nowhere, yet remembered everywhere. The sounds themselves are strangely peaceful. The gentle tapping of stone against stone, the rustling wind, the crackling remains of the fire. Life moves slowly, without hurry, without machines, but never without purpose. And still, tools bring new dangers as well. Sharp edges cut skin, broken fragments leave wounds. A careless mistake can turn useful objects into sources of pain. Even progress carries risks. Perhaps that has always been true. By afternoon, shadows stretch longer across the earth, clouds drift lazily overhead. Children imitate their parents using sticks and harmless stones. Their games are not really games at all. Without realizing it, they are preparing for adulthood, preparing for survival, preparing to inherit the knowledge that keeps the group alive. And as evening paints the sky with soft shades of amber and gold, you begin to understand something extraordinary. Humanity's greatest strength was never claws, or speed, or enormous size. It was curiosity, the quiet desire to shape the world with our hands. And soon, another challenge will remind these early people that even the finest tools cannot protect them from everything. Because once the sun disappears, the ancient world becomes a very different place, and surviving without a true home is a burden modern people can barely imagine. As the last light of evening fades behind the distant hills, and the sounds of stone tools slowly give way to the songs of insects beneath the stars, another truth about the ancient world quietly reveals itself. For all the knowledge these people possess, for all the clever tools shaped by patient hands, there remains one thing they still do not have: a home. Not in the way modern people understand it. No sturdy walls, no locked doors, no familiar room waiting at the end of a long day, no place that belongs to them forever. Instead, home is something temporary, something that changes with the seasons, something that can disappear with a storm, or be abandoned with the rising sun. As dawn arrives once again, the group begins preparing to move. The place that offered safety through the night has already served its purpose. There is little reason to remain. Nearby food sources may become scarce, animals may move elsewhere, weather may change, and so, like countless generations before them, they continue their endless journey. To modern eyes, this constant movement might seem exhausting, perhaps even lonely, but for early humans, the earth itself is their only permanent companion. The valleys, the rivers, the forests, these become familiar in ways no building ever could. Children learn landmarks instead of street names, an unusual rock formation, a crooked tree, the sound of water hidden beyond tall grass. Memory becomes a map, an experience becomes a guide. The journey itself is slow, nobody rushes. The elderly walk with measured steps, mothers carry infants wrapped in soft animal skins, children gather close together, every person matters, no one is left behind without reason, because surviving alone is rarely possible. By midday, the sun hangs high above the land, the air grows warmer, shadows shorten, and still the group searches, not for treasure, not for adventure, but for something much simpler. A suitable place to rest. Somewhere dry, somewhere sheltered, somewhere that offers at least a small measure of protection, perhaps beneath a rocky overhang, perhaps near a stream, perhaps beside a cluster of trees that can soften the wind. The requirements are modest, yet finding such places is never guaranteed. Nature does not provide comfort equally. Some days offer pleasant campsites, other days offer nothing at all, and so the group learns to adapt, always adapting, always adjusting, always accepting what the world provides. Clouds begin drifting across the sky, a cool wind whispers through the grasslands, an elder studies the horizon carefully. Weather matters more than modern people often realize. Dark clouds are not merely inconvenient, they are warnings. Rain means cold, cold means danger. Simple things become serious concerns when there are no houses waiting nearby. Eventually, the group reaches a familiar place, a shallow cave nestled beside ancient trees, not luxurious, not especially warm, but enough to provide shelter from the wind, enough to survive another night. The younger children smile softly, even temporary safety brings comfort. Branches are gathered, animal hides are spread across the ground, the fire is carefully prepared, and soon, the familiar glow of orange light returns. Perhaps this place sheltered their ancestors, perhaps countless generations rested beneath the same stone ceiling. No one truly knows, but there is something strangely comforting about that thought. As evening settles across the landscape, the cave fills with the quiet sounds of daily life. Soft conversations, the crackling fire, the sleepy laughter of children. Outside, the world remains vast and unpredictable. Predators wander beneath the stars, storms gather beyond distant hills, and darkness conceals countless mysteries. But inside this simple shelter, there is peace, not permanent peace, not guaranteed safety, just a brief pause, a small island of warmth in a world that rarely offers certainty. Perhaps modern people underestimate the importance of such moments, because comfort does not always come from luxury. Sometimes, comfort comes from simply being together, from hearing familiar voices, from sharing a fire, from knowing that for one more night you are not alone. The flames dance gently against the cave walls, shadows move softly in the flickering light, children drift into sleep, and beyond the entrance, the wind begins to whisper through the trees, because finding a place to rest is only part of the challenge. Soon, another question will quietly emerge. Even when shelter exists, how do you truly protect yourself from the world outside? And that answer is far more difficult than it first appears. Throughout the night, the cave had offered a welcome kindness, not perfect protection, not complete safety, but enough to keep the cold winds away, enough to allow tired bodies a few precious hours of rest. And as the first pale rays of morning slipped quietly across the stone walls, the ancient world once again reminded everyone of an uncomfortable truth: no shelter lasted forever. The little cave that had seemed so comforting during the darkness might become useless. Tomorrow, perhaps the animals nearby would move away, perhaps heavy rains would flood the area, perhaps another danger would force the group onward. In the world of early humans, even safety had an expiration date. Outside, the morning air felt cool and damp, mist drifted among the trees, birds greeted the sunrise with familiar songs. For a few peaceful moments, the world appeared gentle, but appearances could be deceiving. Finding shelter was never as simple as choosing a beautiful location. Beauty meant very little. Survival demanded something far more practical: protection from rain, protection from wind, protection from predators, and above all, protection from the bitter cold that could slowly steal life itself. As the group prepared for another day, an elder quietly inspected the cave entrance. His eyes moved carefully across the ground, not searching for food, not searching for water, but for signs, tracks, scratches, droppings, because humans were not the only creatures seeking shelter. Bears liked caves. Large cats preferred rocky overhangs. Even smaller animals could bring unwanted trouble. Occupying the wrong shelter could turn a peaceful evening into a nightmare. Fortunately, the signs revealed nothing alarming, at least not today, and so the group remained. Some gathered branches, others repaired worn animal hides, children collected dry grass for bedding. Simple tasks, yet each one made the difference between discomfort and misery. Modern homes often hide how much work shelter truly requires. Walls stand for decades, roofs remain overhead without much thought, but in this ancient world, shelter demanded constant attention. Branches broke, rain-soaked bedding. Smoke blackened cave ceilings, wind found its way through every crack. Nothing stayed perfect, nothing stayed easy. By midday, dark clouds began gathering once again. A low rumble echoed somewhere beyond the hills. The air changed, heavy, still. Even the birds seemed quieter. The elder noticed immediately. Storms were approaching, and storms in this world were more than simple inconveniences. Without strong walls, nature entered your life without permission. Everyone worked. Quickly, extra wood was brought inside. Loose hides were secured. Children stayed close to their mothers. There was no panic, only quiet preparation. Because panic wasted energy, experience taught patience. Soon, rain began to fall. At first, only a few drops, then many. The gentle rhythm became a steady roar against the earth. Water streamed from the rocks. Cold winds pushed moisture into every corner, and despite all their efforts, as the storm clouds finally disappeared beyond the distant hills, and the smell of rain slowly gave way to the familiar scent of smoke and damp earth, a quiet calm settled over the world once again. The evening sky glowed with soft shades of gold and violet. Birdsong faded. The wind became gentler, and one by one, the sounds of the day slowly disappeared. For modern people, night often feels peaceful, a time for warm beds, soft lights, locked doors, and the comforting certainty that morning will come. But for early humans, darkness carried a different meaning. Darkness was uncertainty, darkness was vulnerability, and above all, darkness was long, very long. As the sun slipped beneath the horizon, the world transformed. Colors vanished, familiar paths disappeared, the endless landscape became a sea of shadows. Even the trees looked different, stranger, almost mysterious. The cave that had seemed welcoming during daylight now felt smaller. The entrance opened into a black world filled with sounds no one could fully explain. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called into the night. Nearby insects created a constant chorus. Branches rustled in the wind, and occasionally, far beyond the firelight, something moved. Nobody ignored such sounds, because hidden beyond sight, danger often walked silently. The fire became the center of everything. Its warmth mattered, its light mattered. But perhaps most importantly, its presence brought comfort. People gathered close, children rested beside their mothers, elders wrapped themselves in animal hides. Quiet conversations drifted through the air. Nobody spoke loudly. The night itself seemed to encourage silence. There were no clocks, no glowing screens, no distractions demanding attention, only the flames and the endless stars overhead. To modern eyes, those stars would seem beautiful. And they were, but for Early humans, they were something more, companions, silent lights that returned every evening, reliable, predictable, perhaps one of the few things in life that never seemed to change as darkness deepened. Sleep slowly approached, but sleeping was never simple. The ground remained hard, even layers of grass and hides offered little softness, cold air crept into the shelter, smoke from the fire irritated tired eyes, small insects buzzed nearby, and every strange sound beyond the cave entrance reminded everyone that complete safety did not exist. People slept lightly, not deeply, not carelessly. Generations of survival had taught the human mind to remain alert, even in dreams. A crackling branch, a sudden noise, a shift in the wind, any unusual sound might wake several members of the group immediately, because sleeping too deeply in this world carried risks. Modern comfort had not yet taught humanity to relax completely. Yet despite these hardships, there was something strangely peaceful about the night. Children slept close together, parents rested nearby. Elders breathed slowly beside the fading fire. The familiar presence of others brought reassurance. No one faced the darkness alone. Outside, clouds drifted across the moon. Silver light touched the ancient trees. Gentle breezes whispered through the grasslands, and hidden creatures continued their secret lives beneath the stars. Foxes searched quietly, deer moved through the shadows, tiny insects sang their endless songs. Life never truly stopped, it simply changed. Hours passed. The fire occasionally needed attention. Someone would wake and carefully add fresh branches, not with annoyance, but with quiet understanding. The fire had become more than warmth, it had become a guardian. A trusted companion against the darkness, and slowly, very slowly, night began surrendering to dawn. The eastern sky softened, birds greeted the approaching sun, mist returned to the valleys, and another day prepared to begin. For the people around you, surviving the night itself had been a victory, a simple victory, yet one never taken for granted, because in this ancient world, every sunrise was a gift. And not every season treated that gift kindly, for somewhere beyond these peaceful mornings, far colder days were waiting, days when warmth became precious, days when survival itself would be tested, and compared to the long nights, the coldest seasons held challenges far more unforgiving. The gentle warmth of early dawn slowly spreads across the land, but something about the air feels different now, sharper, heavier, as if the world itself has begun to tighten its grip. The easy days of warmth and soft winds are fading, and in their place, a quieter, harsher season begins to arrive. At first, the change is subtle. The mornings feel colder, the mist lingers longer over the grasslands, the ground becomes harder beneath tired feet, even the fire, once comforting and easy to maintain, now demands more attention than before. For early humans, seasons are not marked on calendars. There are no written warnings, no weather forecasts, only memory, only instinct. And the body's quiet understanding of change. As the group moves through familiar terrain, the landscape appears familiar, but not unchanged. Leaves begin to lose their bright green color, some fall early, drifting silently onto the ground. The wind carries a different tone now, less gentle, more persistent. The elders notice first, they always do, without words. Preparations begin, extra wood is gathered, animal hides are checked for damage. Shelter spots are reinforced where possible, because everyone knows what is coming. Cold is not simply discomfort, cold is pressure. It drains energy, it slows movement, it makes every task harder than before. Even finding food becomes more difficult. Animals move differently, plants begin to fade, water feels colder against the skin, and the body itself begins to demand more just to survive. Children stay closer to the fire. Their breaths are visible in the morning air. Elders sit quietly, conserving strength. Even conversations grow shorter, not out of fear, but out of necessity. Words take energy, and energy must be saved as the days pass. The sky grows heavier with clouds, the sun appears less often. When it does, its warmth feels weaker. The fire becomes the center of all life, not just for warmth, but for survival itself. Without it, nights would become dangerous beyond imagination. And so the group learns a simple truth: fire is not optional, it is life. One evening, the wind changes again, stronger this time, colder. It moves through the trees like a warning. The group gathers closer to their shelter, which now feels less secure than it did in warmer days. Animal hides are layered carefully, branches are added to block the wind. Every small improvement matters, yet nothing truly stops the cold. It always finds a way in. Outside, frost begins to form on the ground, thin at first, almost beautiful, shimmering under moonlight like scattered dust. But beauty here is deceptive, because frost is a sign, a warning that the season is deepening. That survival will soon demand even more effort. Nights become longer, sleep becomes lighter, the fire must be fed more often. Someone is always awake, not because of fear, but because letting the fire die is not an option. At dawn, the world looks transformed, grass stiff with cold, puddles frozen at the edges, trees standing still in silent endurance. Movement slows across the group, every action feels heavier, every step requires more effort. Even breathing feels different in the cold air, yet life continues. It always continues. Food is still gathered when possible, water is still collected, shelter is still maintained, but everything is harder now, and still, there are moments of quiet beauty, sunlight touching frost-covered grass, smoke rising gently from a warm fire, children smiling briefly as they warm their hands, small moments, fragile moments, but meaningful ones. Because in the coldest seasons, meaning is found not in abundance, but in endurance, and as the group gathers again around the fire that night, the elder looks toward the dark horizon, not with fear, but with understanding. Because cold seasons are not the end of life, they are a test, and only those who adapt, who prepare, and who endure together, will see the warmth return again. But beyond this winter's edge, a far greater challenge still waits quietly in the future, one that will test not just survival, but the very meaning of staying human. The cold season continues to press itself across the land, and with it, something less visible begins to grow stronger, a feeling that settles quietly at the edges of awareness, not hunger, not cold, but something older, something instinctive, fear. As night falls over the ancient world, the fire becomes smaller than it once was, wood is harder to find in the colder air, energy is conserved more carefully, and darkness feels heavier than ever before. Beyond the shelter, the forest does not sleep, it watches, it listens, and it moves. Early humans do not see predators as symbols of evil or monsters from stories. They are simply part of the world, as natural as rivers, as real as wind, but that does not make them any less dangerous. Somewhere beyond the firelight, a branch snaps, everyone notices, silence follows immediately. Even the smallest sound in the night carries meaning. The group does not panic. Panic wastes energy. Instead, they listen, wait, observe. An elder slowly rises, his eyes scanning the darkness beyond the fire. Nothing is visible, only shadows between trees. Only movement that may or may not be imagined, but experience teaches caution, because in this world, mistakes are expensive. Predators are not constant visitors, but they are never truly absent. Lions once roamed parts of this ancient landscape. Hyenas moved in silent groups, large wolves traveled through valleys in search of food. Even bears could wander near human shelters, each one driven by the same simple force, survival. Inside the shelter, children are pulled closer to their mothers, not tightly enough to cause fear, but enough to feel warmth and safety. fire remains the only true barrier, a thin line between safety and darkness. The flames flicker, shadows stretch and shrink across the stone walls. Outside, the wind moves through the trees like distant breathing. Every sound feels amplified. Every pause feels longer than it should, and yet, nothing appears, no attack, no movement closer, only the endless presence of the unknown. Hours pass slowly, sleep becomes fragmented, not deep, not complete, just light rest between moments of awareness, because in this world, true sleep is a luxury, a risk, and the human mind has not yet learned to fully surrender to darkness. At dawn, the fire is still alive, barely, smoke rises weakly into the cold air. The group remains intact, safe, for another night, but the memory of the darkness lingers. As they move through the morning landscape, signs of predators begin to appear. Not direct encounters, but evidence. Footprints pressed into soft earth, tufts of fur caught on branches, the distant call of scavengers. Nature leaves traces everywhere, and those who learn to read them survive longer. Children are taught quietly. Do not wander alone, do not leave the fire's glow, do not ignore unfamiliar sounds. Lessons that become part of daily life, not as warnings, but as routine understanding. By midday, the sun feels slightly warmer. But caution does not disappear with daylight. Even then, danger exists, just in different forms. A carcass in the distance draws attention from scavengers. Birds circle overhead. The cycle of life continues without pause. Death feeds life, and life feeds death. An elder kneels near the ground, examining tracks once more. He does not speak, only observes, reading the story written in the earth, a story of movement, of passing presence, of creatures that were here, and are now gone. The group decides to change direction, not because of fear alone, but because wisdom says so. Avoidance is not weakness, it is survival. As evening approaches again, the fire is built in a more protected area. Closer to rock, closer to shelter, a small adjustment, but an important one, because experience has taught them that survival is often decided not by strength, but by small decisions made before danger arrives. Night returns once more. The stars appear quietly above the world, beautiful, distant, indifferent, and somewhere beyond the glow of the fire, the ancient world continues its unseen life, watching, waiting, and reminding those who live within it that they are never truly alone, because tomorrow another kind of danger will appear, one that does not move in shadows, but stands tall in the open world and reshapes everything it touches. As the group moves deeper into unfamiliar terrain, the landscape begins to feel larger, not in distance, but in presence. The trees seem older, the valleys wider, the silence heavier, and the world itself less predictable. Morning light spreads across vast open plains where grass sways like an endless sea, but this is not an empty world, far from it. This is a world shared with creatures far larger than anything seen today. Animals that move through the land with quiet authority, not enemies, not allies, simply inhabitants of the same fragile world. The early humans notice them long before they are seen clearly, a distant shape, a shifting shadow across the grass. A slow movement that bends the horizon, then it appears, a herd of massive animals grazing calmly under the pale sky. Their size is difficult to understand at first. Even standing still, they feel like part of the land itself. Some are tall and heavy, moving with slow confidence. Others are broad and powerful, tearing grass from the earth with effortless strength. The group stops immediately. No one speaks, not out of fear alone, but out of respect learned through generations. Because in this world, size commands attention. The wind carries scent carefully across the plains. The animals lift their heads briefly. They are aware, always aware, but not threatened. Not yet, Early humans do not approach, they do not challenge, instead, they observe from a distance, because survival is not always about confrontation, sometimes it is about patience, understanding, knowing when not to move. These giant creatures are not just dangerous, they are also essential to the ecosystem that sustains everything else. Their movements shape the land. Their grazing opens paths through dense grass, their presence attracts smaller animals, and when one dies naturally, it becomes life for many others. Nothing is wasted, everything is connected. The group continues carefully along the edge of this vast living world. Occasionally, children point silently at distant figures, an elder gently lowers their hands, not out of strictness, but understanding. Some knowledge is best absorbed quietly. As the sun rises higher, the heat increases. The animals slowly drift farther away, their massive forms fading into shimmering air, but their presence remains felt, even after they are gone. By midday, the group reaches a river valley. Water flows wide and slow between ancient stones. Here, life gathers in abundance. Smaller animals move near the banks, birds circle overhead, tracks crisscross the muddy edges of the river. This is where the giants often come, to drink, to rest, to move through their ancient paths. The humans do not claim ownership of this place, no one does. It belongs to all life, and yet, it demands caution, because water draws everything, both the gentle and the dangerous. An elder kneels beside the riverbank, studying deep prints in the mud, heavy, wide, fresh. The ground still remembers their passing. Nearby, others collect water carefully in carved containers and animal skins. Every movement is slow, deliberate, because sudden noise can echo far across open land. And sound travels easily here, too easily. The river reflects the sky like broken glass. Clouds drift slowly across its surface. For a moment, everything feels calm, almost peaceful. But even in peace, awareness never fades. As afternoon stretches on, distant thunder rolls across the horizon, not immediate, but approaching. The group understands the pattern. Large animals often move before storms, seeking safer ground, following instincts older than memory. And so, preparations begin again, not for battle, not for celebration, but for movement, because in this world, staying still for too long can be just as dangerous as moving too far. By evening, silhouettes appear again on the horizon. Massive shapes moving slowly across the fading light, different herds this time, different paths. The land becomes a shared road of giants and humans alike. No one rules it, no one owns it, everyone simply passes through. As night begins to fall, the group finds shelter near elevated ground. From here, they can see the movement below. Dark forms against fading light, slow, powerful, ancient, and strangely peaceful when viewed from a distance. Fire is lit carefully once again. But this time, the group is more cautious, not because of fear of predators alone, but because of something even greater, the reminder that humans are not the largest presence in this world. Not the strongest, not the most dominant, just another species learning how to survive in a landscape shaped by giants. And as the stars begin to appear overhead, a quiet realization settles in. Survival is not about controlling nature, it is about learning how small you truly are within it. And tomorrow, the world will not become smaller, it will only become more complex. The night after the giant animals pass through the valley, the world feels quieter, but not calmer, because silence in this land does not mean safety, it only means uncertainty. As dawn slowly rises over the horizon, a thin layer of mist clings to the grasslands once again. The fire from the night before has almost disappeared into ash, only a faint warmth remains beneath the stones, and with it, the familiar presence returns. Hunger, not sudden, not dramatic, but constant. A quiet pressure that never truly leaves. For early humans, Hunger is not a moment, it is a background condition of life. It sits beneath every decision, every step, every conversation. The group begins to move again, slowly spreading across familiar terrain. Eyes scan the ground without pause, hands reach instinctively toward anything that might be edible, a root, a seed, a forgotten fruit, anything that can delay the feeling in their stomachs. But today, the land feels less generous, plants are thinner, animal tracks are fewer. Even birds seem more distant than usual. Nothing is guaranteed, and everyone knows it. An elder pauses beside a patch of dry soil. He kneels, pressing his fingers into the earth. It tells him nothing comforting, only that the land is tired, perhaps overused, perhaps simply in a season of scarcity. No one argues, no one complains. They simply continue, because hunger does not wait for explanations. Children walk closer together than usual. Their energy fades faster, not because they are weak, but because growing bodies demand more than the land sometimes provides. A mother carefully offers a small portion of stored food to her child, not enough to satisfy, but enough to continue, always enough to continue. That balance defines survival, not fullness, but endurance. As midday approaches, the heat rises. Over the open plains, the group spreads out further. Searching, listening, observing, one person spots movement near the edge of a dry forest. Small, quick, a cluster of animals moving between shrubs. Hope rises briefly, but fades just as quickly. They are too far, too fast, too alert, and so the moment passes. Modern life often hides this truth, that most attempts to find food in ancient times ended in nothing, no reward, no result. Just more walking, more searching, more waiting. By afternoon, the group gathers near a shallow stream. Water helps ease the exhaustion, but not the hunger. The sound of flowing water fills the space between tired breaths. Some sit quietly, others continue scanning the land. Even rest is not complete. Because rest does not stop need, an elder shares a small handful of gathered nuts. They are distributed carefully, not equally in quantity, but equally in meaning. Everyone receives a portion, a reminder that the group still exists as one body, one survival unit. No one is left out. As the sun lowers, shadows stretch across the grasslands. The landscape becomes softer in appearance, more beautiful, but beauty does not feed anyone. And still, there is movement again in the distance. This time, smaller animals near the edge of a rocky slope. Not impossible, not easy either, but possible. And in this world, possibility is enough to move forward. The group approaches carefully. Not rushing, not hoping too loudly, because hope must be controlled. Too much of it leads to disappointment, too little leads to despair. Balance is everything. The attempt is made quickly, not a chase like in stories, not a dramatic moment of triumph, just a short burst of movement, a sudden scatter. And then, nothing, again, failure, but expected failure, and that expectation makes it easier to continue. As evening arrives, the group returns with very little, not empty, but close. The fire is built anyway, because the fire is not just for cooking, it is for holding the group together. Even when food is scarce, especially when food is scarce, night settles slowly, stomachs remain light, sleep comes gently, not fully satisfied, but still necessary, because tomorrow will bring another search, another walk, another chance. And in this endless rhythm of finding and failing, early humans slowly shape something far greater than survival. They shape resilience, not through victory, but through repetition, through persistence, through simply refusing to stop. And somewhere in this quiet struggle, the foundations of human endurance are being written, not in stone, not in tools, but in hunger itself. The night after another failed search for food passes slowly, not because anything dramatic happens, but because nothing feels entirely safe, even in rest. The ancient world never becomes fully quiet. The fire still crackles softly, but its light is weaker now. Wood is carefully saved, every branch matters, every ember matters. As dawn arrives, the group wakes with the same familiar weight in their bodies, not just hunger, but awareness. Because in this world, danger does not always come from predators or storms. Sometimes, it hides in ordinary moments, in places that look completely harmless. The morning begins with movement across familiar ground. A river nearby offers water, as it always does, but even water carries risk. It must be collected carefully, drunk slowly, checked before trusting, because what looks clean can sometimes hide sickness, and sickness here has no cure, no medicine, no comfort beyond time and rest. A young child bends down to drink quickly from the stream, then elder immediately stops them, not harshly, but firmly, a reminder that survival is built from small habits, not heroic actions. The group moves on, scanning the land as usual, but today, attention is sharper, because experience teaches something important. The greatest dangers are often not obvious. A patch of berries looks inviting under soft sunlight, bright, fresh, easy to reach, but an elder avoids it immediately. The memory of past mistakes lives strongly in the group. A single wrong bite can mean days of pain, or worse. Even plants that grow beside each other can have entirely different effects on the body. One heals, one harms. Nature offers no clear labels, only patterns learned over generations. Further along the path, a fallen tree blocks part of the trail. It seems harmless, just wood returning to the earth, but beneath it, insects move in large numbers, some harmless, some not. A careless step can bring painful bites, or infections that linger for days. Even rest spots require caution. A shaded clearing might seem perfect for a break, cool, quiet, protected, but it could also be the resting place of hidden animals, snakes, spiders, or creatures waiting unnoticed beneath leaves. Nothing is ever just what it seems. By midday, the group reaches a rocky area where tools are repaired. Stone scraping stone, wood shaped carefully against rough edges, but even here, danger exists. Sharp tools demand respect. A moment of distraction can turn creation into injury. A small cut in this world is not small at all. Without proper care, it can become serious quickly. Blood carries vulnerability, and vulnerability here is dangerous. Children learn this quietly by watching, not through teaching, but through repetition. They see adults pause before every action, before drinking, before sitting, before touching unknown plants. Caution becomes instinct. As afternoon sunlight softens across the land, the group continues moving, not in urgency, but in steady rhythm, every step measured, every sound noticed. Even silence feels meaningful. A sudden rustle in tall grass causes everyone to stop. Eyes turn, breathing slows, but it is only the wind shifting through dry stems. Still, no one relaxes immediately, because false alarms are safer than ignored dangers. This is how survival becomes shaped, not by constant threats, but by constant awareness. As evening approaches, the group chooses a resting place near elevated ground, not because it is comfortable, but because it offers visibility. Seeing the surroundings matters more than softness. Fire is lit carefully once again. Flames rise gently into the cooling air, and for a brief moment, everything feels stable, not safe, but stable. A small but important difference. Around the fire, quiet conversation returns, soft, measured. Stories are not told for entertainment. They are shared as reminders, which plants to avoid, which paths to take, which sounds to remember. Knowledge survives through repetition, not writing, not records. Only memory carried between people. As night settles in, the group remains alert longer than usual, not out of fear, but understanding. because danger in this world is rarely loud, it is subtle, hidden, patient, just like life itself. And as the fire slowly burns lower into glowing embers, another truth becomes clear. Survival is not only about facing obvious threats, it is about noticing the ordinary world carefully enough to see what others might miss. And tomorrow, the greatest challenge will not come from danger alone, but from something far deeper, something that quietly shapes every living thing in this ancient world. The night settles gently over the elevated ground, where the group has chosen to rest once again. The fire burns steadily, though smaller than before. Its glow is carefully protected, shielded from the wind with stones and branches. Around it, shadows move softly across tired faces, not fearful, not celebratory, just present, because in this world, togetherness is not optional, it is survival. As dawn approaches, the group slowly wakes in silence. No one wakes alone, even sleep is shared here. People rest close together, forming a loose circle around the fading fire. Warmth is preserved through proximity as much as flame, and as the first light touches the land. Another day begins not as individuals, but as a unit, a small human group moving through a vast, indifferent world. There are no leaders in the way modern societies understand them. No written laws, no formal structures, but there is order, a quiet, natural order shaped by necessity. Each person has a role, each movement contributes to survival. An elder leads the way, not through command, but through experience. They remember paths others forget, they recognize dangers others might miss, and that memory becomes guidance. Children stay close, learning without being told. They observe everything: how adults carry food, how fire is maintained, how silence is used when danger feels near. A learning is constant, not structured, not formal, just life absorbing life. As the group travels, decisions are made without discussion, not because voices are ignored, but because understanding already exists. If someone pauses, others pause. If someone signals caution, the group adjusts. Communication is often silent, a glance, a gesture, a shift in posture. This quiet coordination is what keeps them alive, not strength alone, not tools alone, but connection. By midday, the group reaches a wide valley where scattered trees provide both shade and visibility. They stop here briefly. Rest is shared, food is divided carefully. Even the smallest portion is split among all, not equally in quantity, but equally in purpose. No one is meant to feel separate, because separation in this world can be dangerous. A lone individual is vulnerable, but a group, even a small one, can endure. Children play briefly near the edge of the group. Their movements are not idle. They are learning balance on uneven ground, recognizing safe plants, staying within visual distance of adults. Play and survival blend together naturally. Nearby, an elder repairs a damaged tool while another watches over the surroundings. Trust is not spoken, it is assumed through action. Everyone contributes in some way, even the elderly, even the young. By afternoon, clouds drift slowly across the sky, the light softens, and the group prepares to move again, because staying too long in one place increases risk. Predators observe patterns. Weather shifts, food sources change. Nothing in this world remains stable for long. As they walk, something important becomes clear. They are not just surviving as individuals within nature, they are surviving as a system, a living network of cooperation. One person's awareness becomes another's safety, one person's knowledge becomes shared survival. Even mistakes become collective lessons. If one person suffers from a plant, others remember. If one path proves dangerous, the entire group avoids it. Knowledge spreads through experience, not instruction. As evening approaches again, the group finds a sheltered grove near a river bend. Trees curve inward naturally, forming a protective space. Fire is prepared carefully once more, but this time there is something different in the air, a sense of stability earned through repetition, through trust, through shared effort. As flames rise, the group settles together, closer than before, not out of fear of the dark, but comfort in each other. And in that quiet circle of light, something deeply human begins to take shape, not civilization, not cities, not language as we know it, but belonging. A simple, powerful understanding that survival is not carried alone, it is shared, and as night deepens, the group remains together, not because they must, but because separation no longer feels possible, and somewhere beyond the firelight. The ancient world continues to move, but here, for this moment, they move as one. As night falls once again over the sheltered grove, the world outside slowly dissolves into darkness, but inside the circle of humans, something essential remains alive, a fire, not large, not overwhelming, but steady, alive, and deeply precious. The group has learned, through countless cold nights and uncertain mornings, that fire is not just a tool, it is the center of existence. Without it, the night becomes longer, the cold becomes sharper, and the world becomes far less forgiving. As the flames rise gently into the air, they cast warm light across tired faces, shadows move softly across stone, bark, and skin. For a brief moment, everything feels held together. Not by strength, but by warmth. Children sit closest to the fire, their bodies leaning slightly toward its glow. They have learned what warmth means long before they understand words. It is safety, it is comfort, it is survival made visible. Nearby, adults carefully manage the fire. It is never left unattended for long, because fire, once lost, is not easily regained. The process of creating it is slow, difficult, sometimes frustrating. A forgotten ember, a misplaced spark, a dry bundle of grass carefully rotated between hands. Patience is required in every movement, and so, fire is treated with respect. Not as a possession, but as a companion. Outside the circle of light, the world remains cold and vast. The wind moves through trees with quiet persistence, animals call in the distance, the darkness feels endless. But inside the firelight, the group exists in a different world, a smaller world, a safer one. As the night deepens, stories are not told in words as much as in presence. People sit together, they share warmth, they share silence. Even silence becomes a form of communication, an understanding that does not require explanation. The fire does more than provide heat, it extends waking hours. It allows food to be cooked more safely, it drives away certain dangers. But perhaps most importantly, it changes how humans feel inside their own minds. Fear becomes softer, sleep becomes easier, connection becomes stronger. In earlier times, before fire was fully mastered, nights would have been unbroken darkness, cold, unforgiving, full of uncertainty. But now light pushes back against that emptiness. Not completely, but enough. An elder adds another piece of wood to the fire. The flames respond immediately, rising higher for a moment before settling again. There is a rhythm to it, a quiet dialogue between human care and natural force. The group watches this interaction as if it were something sacred, because in many ways it is. Fire is not only warmth, it is knowledge. It is control over one of nature's most unpredictable forces, and control, in this world, is rare. As the hours pass, the fire slowly becomes smaller again, wood turns to ash, flames soften, but the warmth lingers in bodies gathered closely together. Even when the light fades slightly, the feeling remains. The memory of heat is enough to carry into sleep. Outside, frost begins to form in cooler regions of the landscape, but here, within the protected circle, life continues uninterrupted. Breathing slows, bodies relax, eyes close one by one, yet even in sleep, someone always remains half aware, watching the fire, listening to the night, ensuring that the warmth does not disappear entirely, because in this world, fire is not something you leave behind, it is something you protect. Something you depend on, something that quietly defines whether the night ends in safety or in struggle, and as the embers glow softly into the darkness, another realization settles in without words. Without fire, there is no morning worth waiting for. As the first light of dawn touches the edge of the valley, the fire is already reduced to glowing embers. The night has passed once again, not easily, not comfortably, but successfully, and in this world, that alone is enough. Among the sleeping forms wrapped in animal hides, small movements begin to appear, children waking before the adults, not because they are ready, but because survival does not follow modern ideas of rest. A child in this ancient world is not separated from danger. They grow within it. Every sound they hear, every path they walk, every lesson they absorb, is shaped by an environment that demands awareness from the earliest age, as the group slowly begins to move. Mothers keep their children close, not with fear, but with constant attention. A child cannot simply be left to wander. The world is too large, too unpredictable, and yet, children still find ways to explore it. Small steps beside adults, careful observation of the ground, quiet imitation of everything they see. Learning happens constantly, not in classrooms, but in motion. A young child watches an elder gather water. They copy the movement. Another observes how fire is fed and tries to mimic it with harmless sticks. These are not games in the modern sense. They are preparation, life training itself. As the group travels through familiar terrain, children remain within sight at all times, sometimes tied loosely by simple cords, sometimes held close, always protected, but never isolated, because isolation is risk, and risk, in this world, is rarely acceptable. By midday, the group reaches a sheltered clearing near a slow river bend. The children are allowed brief moments of freedom. They play near the edge of adult activity, but even their play carries meaning. They practice balance on uneven ground. They learn which plants can be touched. They understand distance without being told. Every movement becomes a lesson. Nearby, an elder sharpens a stone tool while watching over them. Their eyes shift constantly between work and surroundings. Nothing is ever fully relaxed, not even in moments that appear peaceful. A child falls briefly while running across soft earth. There is no dramatic reaction, only quick attention. A gentle hand helps them up. A short look ensures no injury. Then life continues. Pain is not avoided in this world, but it is managed carefully, understood, learned from. As afternoon light grows softer, the group gathers once again. Food is shared in small portions. Children receive priority, not because they are weaker in value, but because they represent continuation. The future of the group depends on their survival. Every bite given to a child is an investment in tomorrow. As they eat, children sit close to adults, listening to quiet voices. Not formal teaching, but stories told through repetition. Which paths are safe, which sounds matter, which animals should be avoided. These lessons are not memorized like text, they are absorbed like breath. By evening, the group settles near a familiar resting place. Fire is prepared carefully as always. Children are gathered near the center of warmth. But even now, learning does not stop. They watch how fire is built, how food is prepared, how adults remain aware of their surroundings even while resting. Sleep will come later, but awareness never fully disappears. Outside the glow of the fire, darkness grows again, and with it, the reminder that childhood here is not separate from survival. It is part of it, a slow shaping of awareness, a gradual building of instinct, because one day, these children will no longer be protected, they will become the ones who carry responsibility, the ones who make decisions, the ones who remember what was taught through silence, observation, and time. And as night settles over the camp once more, a quiet truth becomes clear. In this world, children are not sheltered from survival, they are shaped by it. Gently, continuously, and without pause, because tomorrow's survival depends entirely on how well today's lessons are learned. The night passes slowly over the quiet camp, but this time, something feels slightly different, not easier, not safer, just steadier. As dawn approaches, the first light touches the edges of the valley, revealing a world that has not changed much overnight. The fire still smolders, the shelter still stands, and the group is still together. In this world, that alone is a victory. Early humans do not measure success the way modern people do. There are no large achievements recorded, no trophies, no celebrations of progress. Instead, life is measured in smaller things. Did the fire survive the night? Did everyone wake up alive? Was enough food found yesterday to continue today? These are the quiet victories that define existence. As the group begins to move, there is a subtle change in their rhythm, not excitement, not joy, but a gentle sense of continuity. The world has not taken anything new from them today, and that is enough to feel almost peaceful. Near the river, fresh footprints appear in the soft mud. An elder kneels beside them, studying carefully. The marks are recent, but not threatening. They belong to smaller animals, a reminder that life continues beyond human presence. Nearby, children notice a cluster of wild plants beginning to grow again after recent rains, small shoots breaking through the earth, green returning to places that once looked dry and empty. They do not speak about it, but they notice, because noticing is survival. By midday, the group manages to gather more food than expected, not a feast, not abundance, but more than yesterday. A handful of roots, a few edible leaves, some small fruits found beneath thick bushes. Each item carries quiet importance. There is no celebration, only recognition, a shared understanding that today is slightly better than the last, and in this world, slightly better is meaningful. During rest beneath a wide tree, an elder repairs a damaged tool while others observe. The tool is not new, it is familiar, but its repair extends its usefulness. Nothing is wasted, everything is reused, everything is valued. Even broken things are given another chance. Children sit nearby, watching the process closely. They do not yet understand craftsmanship fully, but they understand attention, they understand care, and that is how knowledge begins. As afternoon light softens, a small moment of success occurs. A group member spots movement in the distance. Not a large herd, not a dangerous predator, but something simpler, a bird nesting low among reeds. Carefully, quietly, an opportunity is taken. A few eggs are collected, not many, but enough to matter, enough to add a small improvement to the day. When shared later by the fire, the eggs are divided carefully, each portion small, but each portion meaningful. There is no excess, but there is fairness, and fairness builds trust. As evening arrives, the group settles near a familiar resting place. The fire is built again, it always is. Flames rise gently into the cooling air, and for a brief moment, everything feels aligned. No danger nearby, no urgent hunger, no immediate threat, only presence, only togetherness. Even sleep that night comes more easily, not because the world has changed, but because small successes soften its edges. A night without loss, a day with enough food, a repaired tool that still works, a child who learned something new. These are not dramatic events, but they accumulate, quietly, slowly, and they become the foundation of survival. As stars scatter across the sky once again, the group rests knowing something simple yet powerful. They are still here, and in this world, that is never guaranteed. Tomorrow will bring new uncertainty, but tonight, they have won something small, and in ancient life, small victories are everything. The fire burns low in the final hours of the night, its soft glow flickering like a quiet heartbeat in the darkness. Around it, the group rests in silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of exhaustion shaped by countless days of survival. By now, something subtle has begun to change, not in the land, not in the animals, but in the people themselves, because survival, repeated day after day, does not only preserve life. It reshapes it. As dawn approaches, the first light spreads across familiar terrain once again. The valley looks unchanged, the river still flows, the trees still stand, but the humans moving through it are no longer the same as those who first woke in this ancient world. Their awareness is sharper now, their movements more efficient, their understanding of danger more instinctive. Everything has been refined by experience, not through comfort, but through necessity. The group begins its morning journey with quiet familiarity, no confusion, no hesitation, only rhythm, a shared understanding of how to move through a world that offers no guarantees. Children walk closer to adults without being told. Elders observe the environment with practiced eyes. Even silence between them feels coordinated, not spoken, but understood. This is what survival has built, not just individuals who endure, but a group that functions as one living system. As they move, the landscape feels less mysterious than before, not because it has become safer, but because they have learned how to read it: the wind, the soil, the movement of animals, the growth of plants. All of it now carries meaning. What once felt random now feels structured, not controlled, but understood. By midday, the group pauses beneath a wide stretch of trees. Here, the air is cooler, the ground softer, and for a moment, rest feels almost natural. An elder sharpens a stone tool while watching the surroundings. The movement is slower now, more precise. There is no wasted effort. Every action has purpose. Nearby, children gather quietly, imitating the rhythm of adult tasks, not perfectly, but consistently, and through repetition, learning takes root. This is how knowledge survives, not through instruction, but through imitation and memory. Later in the day, a small discovery is made: a cluster of plants growing in an unexpected area, not abundant, but reliable enough to return to in future seasons. The group marks the location mentally. No maps exist, no written records, only shared memory passed between people, and that memory becomes a guide for tomorrow. As evening approaches, the group returns to a familiar resting place. Fire is built once again. But now the process feels almost automatic. Hands know what to do without instruction. Wood is arranged efficiently, flame is protected instinctively. What once required careful thought has become routine, and routine is one of the greatest achievements of survival. Around the fire, conversation is quiet but steady, not storytelling for entertainment, but sharing for preservation. What was found, what was avoided, what was learned, each piece of information is valuable, because forgetting in this world is dangerous. Night deepens, and stars spread across the sky like distant reminders of time beyond human life. The group rests with less uncertainty than before, not because danger has disappeared, but because understanding has grown. They now know how to respond, how to adapt, how to continue, and this ability, this quiet transformation, is what separates survival from extinction. The world remains the same. Cold nights still arrive, food still requires effort, danger still exists in hidden places, but the humans within it are no longer fragile in the same way. They have changed, not physically, but internally, through repetition, through hardship, through shared experience, and as the fire slowly settles into glowing embers, a quiet realization lingers in the air. These Challenges were never just obstacles, they were shaping something far greater, something that would continue far beyond this moment in time, something that would eventually become us. The night feels different now, not because the world has changed, but because we have reached the end of a long journey through it. The fire is still there, quiet, diminishing, like a final breath held gently between past and present. Around it, the ancient world seems familiar now, not because it has become easier, but because we have learned how harsh it truly was. And now, one final question remains: what would happen if a modern human was placed here? Not as an observer, not as a visitor, but as someone expected to survive. At first, the answer might seem simple. After all, modern humans are intelligent, adaptable, capable of solving complex problems, but intelligence alone is not enough here. Because this world does not reward knowledge that cannot be immediately applied. It rewards instinct, it rewards repetition, it rewards experience earned through hardship. As dawn rises over the ancient landscape one last time, the world appears unchanged. Rivers still flow, forests still stretch endlessly, animals still move in distant herds, but every part of this environment demands understanding that modern life has slowly removed. A modern human waking here would first notice absence, no shelter built with certainty, no stored food waiting in abundance, no controlled temperature, no clear protection from danger. Even simple survival would feel unfamiliar. Finding food would not be a task of choice, but of urgency. Every hour would matter, every decision would carry weight. Water would need to be found, but also judged. Not everything that looks safe is safe. Fire would not be a convenience, it would be a skill requiring patience, knowledge, and repetition. Without it, nights would become long and cold beyond comfort, and predators would not be distant ideas, they would be real presences in the environment, silent, unpredictable, always possible. But the greatest challenge would not be physical alone. It would be psychological. Modern humans are used to control, schedules, safety, predictability. Here, none of those exist. Uncertainty is constant, and the mind, unprepared for that constant pressure, would struggle. Even simple decisions would feel overwhelming. Where to walk, when to rest, what to trust, every choice carries consequence, and without guidance from experience, mistakes become costly very quickly. But perhaps the most difficult part is time itself. Days are long, nights are longer, and survival does not offer immediate reward, only repetition, only continuation, only the hope of another sunrise. Yet despite all of this, early humans did not simply survive, they adapted, slowly, quietly, over generations. They learned which plants sustained them, which paths led to safety, how to work together without instruction, how to read a world that offers no explanations, and in doing so, they changed not just their environment, but themselves. Fire became more than warmth, tools became more than objects, groups became more than collections of individuals. They became systems of cooperation, of memory, of shared survival, and this transformation is what eventually carried forward into everything we know today. Cities, language, technology, comfort, all of it begins here, and not in safety, but in struggle. As the final fire of this journey fades into glowing embers, a quiet reflection remains. Modern humans may struggle here not because they are weak, but because they are untrained in a world that demands constant awareness. But the most important truth is this: we are not separate from these people, we are the result of them. Every instinct we have, every habit of cooperation, every small survival reaction buried deep in the mind, comes from this world, from this silence, from this struggle. And as the night finally settles completely, the ancient landscape does not feel like a distant past anymore. It feels like a foundation, a beginning. And somewhere beyond the darkness, It feels as if the story of survival is still not truly finished, just waiting for the next chapter to be written.